Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Hello and welcome to the last in this series of Countryside here on Manx Radio. I'm Simon Clark.
And I'm Kirree Kermood. I caught up with Andrea Faragher from the Lady Farmers Group to talk about the 60th celebration coming up in February. And I also caught up with Ned Kennaugh to talk about Christmas on the farm.
And I popped along to Reggaby to speak to Bri Radcliffe, along with his geese and his ducks, to find out how much preparation was going in to getting all the veg ready for Christmas. Well, firstly, Kirree, we're getting near the big time of year for the nativities and, particularly a lot of farmers in days gone by, probably a lot of them still held that religious sort of nativity thing, and it was still part of Christmas, getting the trees and decorations up and preparing the big birds and everything for the Christmas dinners.
I think that tradition still goes on in many farm households around the Isle of Man, and in many households just generally they want to support local and make it feel really, really at home at Christmas. But traditions on the farm, it is an exciting time of year. The nights are so dark now. It's dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, as soon as the 21st comes, we're on the run into spring and the days get lighter. But it is a celebration of the whole year, isn't it, really?
Yeah. And one man who enjoys Christmas and, seen a few Christmases in his time is Ned Kennaugh, Kirree.
Ned, a wonderful person in the countryside and always a man with a tale or two. It's always great hearing that lovely Manx accent. And I popped along to Port Greenock to see how his Christmases used to be on the farm growing up.
What would have been one of the best memories you have of enjoyment at that time?
I don't know that I could be specific. I don't know that I could be specific. Christmas was, how can I say this? It was sort of lumped in to the farming year. It wasn't special. No, that's the wrong thing to say. It was special, but not by today's standards. It wasn't elevated to an artificial position because the animals controlled it. The animals had to be seen to first and last. And we got whatever enjoyment we could out of that in between, seeing to the animals. And we didn't object to that. It was something that had to be done, and you done it. And
did you ever get time to go to the church, to the chapel?
No. That never came into it in our particular. But that's primarily because we never had a car. We lived on a fairly isolated farm. My father never had a car, never had a driving licence. And the nearest chapel would be either St John's or Foxtel. Now, no, we didn't. And the days are short. Darkness comes in quick now. And on Christmas Day, there wasn't that much. No, while we observed the solemnity, is that a good word? Solemnity. Yes, I quite like that. We observed the solemnity of the occasion. We didn't. There was a party at the Sunday School of Foxtel, and that was what you would expect. Potted meat sandwiches and jelly and custard and whatever cakes that the women could make. And we enjoyed that because it didn't happen that often. A lot of ours... What's her name? A woman called Allinson. She's one of the Allinsons from down at Andrews. Her son is the same age as Brian. They were in the Young Farmers together. And she was telling me, we were talking about this sort of thing. And she said, what you've got to remember, the church or the chapel were the biggest part of our social life when we were growing up as kids. There was nothing else. And that was the thing that you looked forward to. But we didn't go out. My father did, but we didn't. And I can't say no more than that about it.
And just on the Christmas day itself, Ned, just from start to finish, what would the day have looked like for you as a child on the farm?
Do the fixing up first, then have a cup of tea while you're waiting for the turkey to cook. Then you listen to the Queen's speech, and then you had dinner about 3:30, 4 o'clock. And by then, it's time to go back out and do the fixing up again. And when you got that done, you come in and you were like Sharon, you wanted to go to sleep. It was fairly tiring, but not physically tiring, but that was the end of the day. It was, and one Christmas Day was very much the same as another. Next year wouldn't be that much different. There wasn't much you could change about it.
And as a point in the calendar, would that Christmas done and dusted, out of the way, looking forward to the springtime?
Well, it's you trundle slowly on through the seasons and hope the weather comes with you. You see, farming was totally different then than it is now. You were trying to get the dung out and the stubble ploughed before Christmas, and there was a reason for that. And the main reason was, when you're doing it with horses, you can't leave it all till a fortnight before you want to sow the oats. You've got to get ahead of the jobs and keep it in control, and that you didn't need a calendar. It was built into your brain what you should be doing, what you'd expect to be doing. You ploughed the stubble first, then you ploughed the lay, trimmed the hedges, ploughed the lay, built the hedges, built the gaps up in the hedges. Then you burnt the rubbish and waited. Mike Godfrey said he was ready to sow his grain on the first day of April every year. He said, as soon as the ground is ready, he says, I'm ready to sow grain. And Stanley Gellin had another say. Funny, these things stick in my brain. I got so much rubbish in my brain now. There's no room for anything good, any more good to go in. Stanley Gellin said, the longer it's in the bed, the more that's in the head.
True. Yes, yes, yes.
If you sow grain, if you sow oats late, it'll come into ear at the same time, once it's been so long in the ground, and you'll get half the crop. But if you can get it in, if things come with you and you get it in early, you'll get a good crop.
And we're seeing them seasons change, Ned. I know this year there's not the power in the grain,
No.
or even in the silage that there was in previous years. It was just so long a spring, wet, heavy spring, not enough sunshine.
No. But we have to deal with that. You know, there's no magic bullet that'll change it. You've got to deal with it. And it was no different then. You know, when we were making loose hay, you depended totally on the weather. Well, you still, but you're not so dependent on the weather now with modern machinery. You can cut. John said the hardest thing you got to do now when you're cutting hay is open the gate. Everything is mechanised now.
So different.
Whereas before, it was all manual. I was rooking hay down at Port Greenock one day, and it was a fine day, and I was quite enjoying it. I wasn't whinging about the work, and there was two retired farmers come down the road, and they're leaning over the gate, and I went down to talk to them, and then they started reminiscing their childhood. I've done hundreds of acres of this. By God, if I had a shilling for every rook I've made. And I said, you're in luck. I said, there's two folks just behind the gate. Oh, I've got to go. The waiters wait.
They'd done their time in it. They weren't going to do any more.
But they wanted to relive it. We were out for a night out one night. I think it was my 21st birthday, and we'd been for a coach tour roundabout, and we'd called on one or two pubs, and we finished up in the Hawthorn. And one of my aunties sitting by the fire, and the port and lemon is starting to get through to them then and slacken their tongue a bit.
Oh, dear. There'll be some stories told then.
And she was starting to reminisce, and she says, I can remember running home from school and getting a piece and going out in the field and thinning turnips with the men. And her brother was sitting alongside of her, and he said, don't tell such cussed lies, Gertie, you never thinned a turnip in your life. But she too liked to think that she was part of that scene. And you shouldn't deny them that. Their memories are sacred to them, and we should honour that and let it go forward. And what we miss, what we don't do now, is tell our kids enough about what it was like with a serious intent that it will. Do you know, I've exposed all my children to, all my 3 boys, they'll all milk a cow by hand. I've taught them how to thatch, build stone walls. They're not doing it now, but I would like to think that it's in their brain and they can come. It won't be a major shock when they've got to, if they've got, I don't know if they've ever got to do it, but they've got it there. It's another skill that somebody took the time to teach me, and it would be selfish of me if I didn't pass it on.
We're only custodians, aren't we?
That's right. And my lifestyle has been wonderful, and I wouldn't change very much. I wouldn't change very much of it, in spite of the, I'm going to say depravity, but I don't look on that as a bad life. A lack of what people call modern essentials. We had a lack of that. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter. We adapted to it.
And what's one of the best Christmas times you remember through your life, Ned? Like, what would be one of your favourite times or favourite memories of throughout your lifetime?
Oh yes, I remember that. When I got married and the children started to appear, and I don't know where they all born or not. We were living up at Knockhalebeg then, and I can remember one Christmas Eve, and we had a nice Christmas, and we had electric light by this time. We'd moved up the social scale considerably, and we had electric light, and there was a Christmas tree in the sitting room. No, not sitting room, in the living room. We didn't have a sitting room. Behave yourself. And there was a good fire, and I was seeing all these kids sitting around, and their faces was all, everybody was in a good, and that's, I don't know what day it was, but I do remember that scenario. Everything was good, and I think the fire and the lights and the whole thing, the whole scenario registered in my brain, and I do remember that. There was nothing special, there was nothing specific about it. It was just the atmosphere, and we didn't have much money, but it didn't matter. Christmas now seems to be based on economics. It seems to be. A lot of people argue with that, but that's the impression I got.
And what will you be doing this Christmas Day, Ned?
Things have changed now. Now I've slowed down a bit now. We will continue with that lifestyle. See into the horses first. We'll go out and see the horses first, throw them an armful of hay, then go in, have breakfast, and tie your boots and go out. And if the horses are good, we'll put them out and clean out and come back in, have a cup of coffee. And it's just generally a relaxing day now. There's no pressure now. There was can I say there was pressure? There was, to a degree, but we didn't look on it as pressure. It was work to be done, and I consider it to be work rather than it was organised pleasure. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was your priority.
Absolutely.
It was just normal.
And you didn't look badly on it. You didn't whinge about having to go and feed the cows or clean out or anything like that. It was something that was expected to be done.
And what will you eat this Christmas Day? Will it be this traditional goose?
I would love to have a goose, but I'm afraid I'm outvoted. There's cries of too much fat.
Oh,
And dear. I counter that by saying it hasn't done me any harm so far.
No. No. So it'll be turkey?
It will be. Yeah. It will be. But we eat sensibly now, and not. Yeah, when we were growing up, and even when my children were little, excess food wasn't a problem. Because kids, boys growing up, 12, 14, 15-year-old boys, sometimes you had a job to keep them in front of them. It was, they could, and you would fill them up and you think that'll do them for a while, but the next meal comes and they're ready for the same again.
This hollow legs, isn't
Absolutely. Yeah. But nervous energy, and you will know this, nervous energy uses up nearly as much as physical energy. It uses up, and they need topping up, and fortunately we were able to, and here's another thing, we were able to keep meat in front of them. Now, not everybody, if you look at the troubles that are in the world now, not everybody is able to do that. We were able to keep food in front on the table. It may not be always what they wanted. I remember Willie Christian telling me he went to a farm to thrash, and when you always got a good dinner on mill day, and when they come round with the pudding, Willie said, "You'll never guess what it was." I said, "What was it?" He said, "Kinsnooce." Wait, I'll tell you what kinsnooce was. So the woman that had provided come round and leant down over and looked right straight in my face, Willie said, and said, "What's wrong? Don't I like the kinsnooce?"
Oh, no.
And Willie said there was no way was I going to eat that. It was the colostrum, the second or third milking after the cow had calved, and put it in a dish and put it in the oven and bake it. And it'll come out with a bright yellow skin on the top and sort of an off-white consistency underneath. And that was kinsnooce. The English people will call it Beesting's pudding. I've seen that advertised. I tried to find out how you spelled it, and when you see it spelt, you wouldn't pronounce it the way that I'm saying it. Kinsnooce. But those were the sort of things. You see, I lump this in the same way as I talk about offal. It was a form of food, of meat, that you didn't. And another thing, it was the best laxative you could get.
Dear. We don't want to be talking laxatives at Christmas time then.
Well, I think a lot of people want to. but that's just an illustration of how people thought. You know, if I said to you before, if there was mould on the cheese, you didn't throw the cheese out, you cut the mould off.
And you see so many food banks and soup kitchens open again now, Ned. It is a bit of a concern.
Absolutely. And I wonder where we're going. Are we going in the right direction? And a lot of me says that we're not going in the right direction. We're not. The focus is on the wrong thing. Cheap food. There's a campaign which says that the public are demanding cheap food. Now, you'll get cheap food at a price, and there is a price to pay for cheap food, and the reality of it is not fully known yet. And I'm not going to get into the politics of it because I don't know enough about it, but I'm certainly aware of that. What I said to you before, when I was growing up, farming was stable. Prices didn't change much from one year to another. They didn't change much. There wasn't that much investment, but there didn't need to be. Everybody was reasonably content. Reasonably. But I also remember men that were on the dole being sent to England to work on the sugar beet, and I worked with a couple of fellas on the horse trams who went to some of the northern towns to drive buses, rather than giving them, or I'm saying rather than, as well as giving them dole. They were working before they got their handout, and you might say that's a bit drastic, but it was the way that things operated at that time.
No, it is a worry, Ned, and I don't think things are always changing for the better at the minute.
I don't want to cast a cloud over the proceedings now, because we're supposed to be ebullient, we're supposed to be enjoying this period. So I don't want to cast a cloud, but by the same token, you cannot ignore the way you're going. And sometimes we do appear to be running down a blind alley. We do appear to be like that.
And at Christmas time, Ned, talking of food, it is the time of celebration nowadays, people buying food. But we are seeing a bit more of a shift here on the Isle of Man for people to support more local again.
Yes, indeed.
The root vegetables and poultry.
Indeed. But there's also an element which tells me that the public is overfed, eating too much. There's too much choice. I'll be shouted down in a lot of open forums for saying that, but I do think it's right. There's a lot of food wasted now, which prompts me to say that. But while there's food being wasted, there are also food banks opening up. Now, where's the logic there? Where's the logic there?
No.
And that's why I say I'm a little bit apprehensive about the future of food production and food security, which we never had to endure up until now.
No, this is very, very true. And just going back, Ned, to the Christmas time, we've spoke about the poultry, growing them on the farm, and the vegetables, and various bits of presents and stuff over time. Through your lifetime, what would you class as a luxury or one of the best things that's come into play at Christmas?
I don't know. I don't know that I would pinpoint any things have improved gradually over the years, but I wouldn't say there was a milestone. Not in my life. There may be other people who might disagree with that, but I wouldn't say in my lifetime there was a milestone where I said, when I could say, I remember that as being monumental. No, I wouldn't. We evolved with the time and the conditions that we lived in, and I think we done a fairly good job. We would have... It's for other people to say now. I think when I looked round, and what I'm seeing now is a lot of the young men that I went to school with are still working in the community, which tells me that we weren't too wrong with what we were doing, what we were eating, how we were enjoying ourselves. We were doing everything else. We were smoking in the bus shelter and pinching apples and riding bikes without lights and that sort of nonsense. But basically, we were all right, and we've come through life, I think, as fairly responsible citizens. I'd like to think that, but as I say, that's for other people to say. But I have no regrets, and I have no wish list. There was a time I was impressed with the program that was on the telly about the people in Mongolia. And I had a hankering that I would like, because the Mongols were always portrayed as a fierce fighting tribe with Genghis Khan, but in truth they weren't like that at all. They were just peace-loving nomads, and they interviewed a girl at the end of the program and said, "What do you hope for the future?" She said, "I just hope that the Western world will leave us alone," but they didn't. They went in and found oil and gold, and they've raped the country and changed the whole dynamic of it. And I think what a pity that is, that people can't be satisfied with what they've got. They've got to go and encroach on other people. That's one of the... But that is inevitable, that will happen. Dash it all, they're trying to get... When... Did you know Morris Speedy?
No, Philip. No. Philip Speedy's his son, is it?
Same, not a son.
No.
Same Speedies. These were two brothers that went to Australia. And their tales that they told me when they were in Australia, we'd be here for a week listening to them. And I was working for one of them just when the Americans went to the moon. And this fellow was a great philosopher, and he said, "You can bet your life," he said, "if they find a field of rape up there, Dan Kirree will have it." That was just his take on it.
Oh, fantastic.
But that sort of philosophy, that sort of thinking is what keeps our feet on the ground, keeps us balanced, and don't get above yourself.
No.
And I like to think, and I've got a son now who's working, he's how can I say this? He's using his brains to make his living. Now, John, my brother, built a cubicle house down in Polwilliam, and when he built it, it would only accommodate a small tractor to scrape the slurry out. But after he'd built it, then the small tractor packed up and he got a bigger tractor. Now, he hadn't anticipated that when he designed the cubicle house. Now, the big tractor won't go in the passageway in the cubicle house. So he's stuck. So I said, "Well, Gordon has got a tractor. He'll come down and scrape it out for you." And he did. He went down, and I'm with him. And he's down there. And the slurry is about 15 inches deep and stinking to high heaven. And Gordon is in the middle of it. And I said to John, there's a picture of a well-balanced young man. He said, what do you mean? I said, next week he'll be away talking to the Sheikh of Abu Dhabi. He was working at the bank by then.
And here he is.
In millions of dollars. And here he is.
Helping on the farm.
Yes, in the middle of it. And doing both jobs with equal expertise. Now that, to me, I know I'm bragging about my own, and I am proud of my children and what they've done with their lives. But that just gives an example of what can be achieved. He educated himself on the Open University.
Brilliant.
But still had enough sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Brilliant.
tales I could tell you, and they're not for public.
No,
they're not.
Oh, you were saying earlier, Ned, how Christmas on the Isle of Man was different in various parishes compared to
I'm saying
the south or the north.
I'm saying that, but I don't know. But I can very well imagine. I can very well imagine that it would be different. And who are we to disagree with that? If we lived in almost a cocoon of the area. I can remember when we used to go to chapel at Lower Foxtel, our main route to chapel was up the Foxtel railway line. Not on the road, but up the railway line. And when we were coming home at night, because the railway line is in the bottom of the valley that runs all the way down through to St John's, well, it goes all the way to Peel actually, the river runs, it follows, or the railway line follows the river almost. And for years afterwards, when we were walking home from chapel in the moonlight, I could hear the river run, and I could hear that years afterwards. I could still hear the river. And better than that, when we were going home, we were heading north, back down to Slowellian. And Freddie Quirk lived in Coolslew. Now, you know where Coolslew is?
Yes.
Right up on the side of Greba, right in underneath the mountain. We could see Stanley Quirk's light. Now, that was only an oil lamp. And we could see that. How far away would that be?
Good few miles, yeah.
3 miles.
3-4 miles, yeah.
But we had no light pollution. And those are the sort of silly things. We used to look at the stars at night, and we weren't weird in any, but we took notice of what was round about us.
It's grown up in nature, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes. And we took notice of them sort of things. I was highly delighted. This year we've got woodpeckers down in Port Greenock. And I heard the cuckoo again this year. Haven't heard the cuckoo for years.
Fantastic.
Now, the cuckoo is not a particularly nice bird, but I think he's got his place in society, and we should recognise that. And I do. We're very fortunate now. We've got a load of animals down there now. We got ducks and peacocks, and I don't know what's the difference between a weasel and a vole. One of them running along the river bank, and we've got rabbits, horses. We've got a lot of animals and birds surrounding us, and I think we're very fortunate. And I appreciate. Maybe when you get older, you've got time to take these and appreciate. When you're young and growing up and just married and a young family, there's so much else that takes precedence over that, and you're just in a rush to get here, there, and everywhere. But now, I think to myself, if it's not done today, I'll do it tomorrow.
This is it.
And life is good now. Life is good now. I'm enjoying. I've got no regrets. John said to me when he was up in hospice, he said, don't feel too sorry for me because I've had a good life. And I've adapted a lot of that thinking.
And you'll be thinking of John this Christmas time?
Absolutely, absolutely. John, I couldn't keep up with him. His social life was unbelievable. Have you ever seen the calendar in their house? It was just a mass of scribbles of where he was going. And
Christmas, I know how many services and events he would have been attending at Christmas time at the chapel.
That's right. And you need, it's what I said before, you need mental agility. It's not just a case of turn up, have a cup of tea and go again. There's more to it than that. You've got to justify your appearance. And he could. And he appealed to a lot of people, but
so it'll be a relaxing day then for you.
It will now, and I'm starting to appreciate it now. I'm trying to retire, but
That's never going to happen.
I'm not doing a very good job of it. I'm not doing.
Wasn't that meant to be a few years ago?
Exactly. Well, I'm still trying.
Well, anyway, Ned, well, thank you for your time, and hopefully this Christmas will just be as special as every other Christmas.
It will. It won't be a milestone. It'll be a milestone in as much as I've made it to another Christmas. That will be the milestone. And those are the things, when you get to my age, those are the things that you treasure, that you're able to. I'm still active, and I do appreciate that. And every day I think about my compatriots who haven't got this far. So I don't dwell on it, but I do think about it. And no, life is good. Life is good.
Well, Merry Christmas.
And to you, and to Clarky, and to the Manx radio farming community. I know they're all of the same mind. They might not say it in so many words, but deep down, they're all of the same mind. We've got to be, to enter this profession and to continue with it.
There we go. That was Manxman Ned Kennaugh talking about Christmas on the farms in years gone by.
Yeah, and you can listen to parts 7, 8, 9 of that interview with Ned at your leisure. But really a great character, and just one of them stalwarts of the country world, really, Ned.
It's so great. He's still out in the countryside at the weekends clearing out the greps at the side of the road. He's just somebody that's always about, and the small pleasures in life. He's very grateful.
Yeah. Well, I went along to Reggaby to speak to Bri Radcliffe. We were in the monks, the ducks and geeses, gooses, and it was just great atmosphere there. He was just about to head out and pick some more sprouts in the cold, but the weather wasn't too bad, to be fair. And I went along to have a chat with him to find out how his veg preparations were going for probably the busiest time of the year for him. Well, we're at Rye Hill with Bri Radcliffe, preparing and working hard ahead of your Christmas, I suppose, at Ramsey, at your own little hovel, as you call it yourself.
No, it's a quality veg shed establishment, thank you very much. On the quayside, Ramsey, every Saturday, 10 till 4. Come along and you'll be made most welcome. Anyway, we haven't got too much time to stop here, Simon, because the sprouts needing picking and the light is going quickly, isn't it now?
What are you picking at the moment? Is it a time of year where you've got just about everything that you need for the Christmas in the ground still?
Yeah, we'll certainly have a good range of vegetables, essentials, carrots, looking fantastic, sprouts, spuds, the whole spectrum, broccoli, collies, leeks, parsnips, a lot of good selection of veg. Everybody will be very happy, and it's just nice to have a dry spell at the moment. I hope it continues into next week when the pressure will be really on, where all my friends will be rung up and say, "Hey, what you doing? Have you got a spare hour or 2 or 6? Please come down and pick some sprouts." Because it's just a mammoth time, and if the weather's against you, you really do struggle badly.
And of course, the weather, we've had a couple of storms. I mean, how have you got away with that?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm just steady away all the time, really. I know lots of shops have struggled to get goods and stuff in, but I have seen an increase in trade because a lot of people like to come down for the fresh veg and things like that. In fact, we have had a really lovely dry spell, and we managed to get the spuds up all looking good. In fact, I was looking for a harvest home to sing my favourite tunes to, really, but there was none around. No harvest festivals at this time of year.
Didn't get the invite.
Didn't get an invite. In fact, I was looking, so I had to have my own harvest home. We plough the fields and scatter the good seed on the land. So I was very, very happy to have a dry spell in November time to get me spuddies up. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Well, you really have got a good, loyal following, though. On Ramsey on the Saturday morning, haven't you, Brian? And it's part of it. You've got some great homegrown stuff, and I think it's just the way you're there. You're engaged with the customer as well.
It is. It really is nice. I'm very lucky to have a little bit of a good following. They come from all over the island. I know Myrtle comes from Castletown. And,
really?
Yeah, all the way. Yeah, Penelope from Port Sodrick, and probably Barbara from Ballath as well. But it's just nice to meet them all, and we get treated the same, whether we just buy a spud or a carrot or even a bag of spuds, which are always very popular. Thank you.
How did you get started with this, Brian? Because I think you've only you were originally up by where the Farmers Combine is. Is that the first place where you started?
Yeah, well, once upon a time, there was markets in Ramsey, and they used to be going May to September. That was 30 odd years ago, so I've been doing it for 35, nigh on years really, I guess. So they were going, and then I managed to get in where the Farmers Combine building was, the coal yard down there. They were very good to help me, and Mr. Hemmings there on after that, because he subsequently bought it. And it's just nice. It's on the quayside, it's very easy, it's accessible, and at the moment I'm in the Looney's building just nearby to the Trafalgar pub.
We'll just clear that up. The Looney shop.
Oh, sorry, yes, for Looney's shop, yes, for Looney's shop, which is just next door to the Trafalgar pub in Ramsey. Yeah, nice place to be.
35 years though, and what made you get into setting your own little stall up, Brian?
Desperation. No, I just wanted to have another outlet for my goods, really. I mean, we've been supplying lots of little shops and things all around the island, and I thought people were crying out for it, so I thought I'll try a little stall in town, and it's kind of flourished and gone on from there, with encouragement and support from family members, my mum and dad, sisters and all, and anybody that can get hands on. I've had such a great range of helpers over the years who have been able to help me fantastically well. I couldn't have managed without them. So it's really good, and we have a good banter, a good bit of fun, good bit of chat, good bit of camaraderie, and it's all great, yeah.
Well, we're getting some sound effects outside here. The geese and the ducks.
Geese and ducks, yeah, they're always very happy. They like to hang around when we're just sitting down here. I've just had a mince pie, and you have too, haven't you, Simon?
Very nice.
Very nice it was too, yes. So, but yeah, no, it all adds to the effect. A nice farmyard with ducks and geese. It's just nice, isn't it? The ducks are Joni's ducks, my little girl's ducks, and Joni's 9. And she's always keen to do a deal if you need a duck. So, yeah, if anybody wants a duck, come and speak to Joni. She'll look after you.
And we're sitting, looking in front of, now you've mentioned it, a familiar piece of machinery here, the spud sorting device.
Yeah, this is a little spud riddle which we use. It's only small, but it's perfectly adequate for my requirements. It's got a lot of heritage and history. I think you'll agree, Simon. You were probably working at it many years ago as well. It used to be Frank Kennaugh from Derby. So Frank was a good friend, and I know when he packed up, I managed to get hands on this lovely little spud riddle. It's great. It does a good job, and it's okay for me. I'm not in the Super League at all, but it's just perfect for my requirements.
But all in all, you definitely your busiest time of year this, Brian, will it?
Absolutely, yeah. And we're going to go out and pick sprouts now, so you're not going anywhere because I've got your car keys, haven't I?
Well, good luck and all the best to you.
Thanks, Simon, and happy Christmas to everyone, and take care. We'll see you soon.
Bri Radcliffe there telling us all about the preparation for the vegetables at the busy Christmas market that he has in the very posh establishment in Ramsey.
Bri Rad, he's a hard-working gent, certainly. But the work that goes in throughout the year, Simon, to get that vegetable, to our tables at Christmas, it is incredible. With the long wet winter we had, and then the late spring. He must have been worrying about the veg in the ground, getting them planted and all the rest of it. But the cold on your fingertips and toes when you're picking them sprouts.
We've all picked sprouts, haven't we?
Ooh, golly.
But there we go. Go and support that, and doing a great job for 30 odd years now. Well done, Bri. You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kirree Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, to do with the farming world and lots of organisations. Sometimes the ladies sort of have a bit of a background status in it, it's probably fair to say. And one of them, Andrea Faragher, is involved with, Kirree.
This is it. The Lady Farmers Group here on the Isle of Man is going to celebrate its 60th anniversary in the new year. It's always great to hear what they get up to, and it was nice to hear why the group was set up many years ago.
So here we are catching up with Andrea Faragher. She is the secretary of the Lady Farmers Group on the Isle of Man. Now, this is a role you've only done for the last couple of years, but there's some big celebrations coming up, Andrea.
Yes, it's our 60th anniversary. We celebrate in January 2025. The association was set up. It started as the Isle of Man Federation of Young Farmers Clubs Ladies Group and was put together by Mary Kringle in January 1965. So this month next month we'll celebrate our 60th anniversary.
Wow, that is fantastic. And I can remember Mary as a young one running around the mart. Mary was the clerk there, keeping Noel Kringle in check. Whether she ever did or not is another story. But as a lady farmer member of the group, Andrea, what do you get up to throughout the year?
Generally, we start our programme in October with the AGM, and then we meet each second Tuesday of every month till about April, and we have a range of events. Generally, we have a speaker who comes along or gives a demonstration, a slideshow. Generally, it's just a good evening for like an hour's conversation.
And that said, that is really, really important to get out and about through the winter months here on the Isle of Man, isn't it?
Yes. Generally, we've got a membership of about 35 to 40, which is really, really quite a healthy membership.
And can any people join this? Yeah, how do they get involved with it? I know obviously it says lady farmers, but the countryside's quite vast.
Yes, of course. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'm secretary. It's Andrea Faragher, afaragher@manx.net. 672363, preferably after 6 o'clock because I'm out working prior to that. But yeah, come along. It's really an enjoyable event. Yeah.
And that said, it's, like you say, each month having a catch-up. I guess back when this was formed nearly 60 years ago, it would have been really, really important to have that community spirit.
Yes, I think so. It would be generally a meeting occasion once a month for the ladies. Back in those days, there wasn't the communication that there is these days. So, you just sort of met up and this was a way of doing so.
And I guess long days on the farm, the husband of the farmer's children would be out working and doing. And I suppose, we didn't have the social media that we have now, Andrea.
No, of course, these days you just pick up the phone, it's attached to you, so you just crack on with Facebook or the WhatsApp or whatever that takes your fancy. But back in them days, there would be one landline and used for business purposes, I would assume, back in them days.
Yeah, no, and you've been involved with it just recently, Andrea. Is it something new to you as well?
Yes, I've just joined about 4 years ago and been secretary. I'm on my 3rd year as secretary.
And talking of secretaries, I know you've been very busy through the Young Farmers movement over years, and we were really fortunate last year to have that great exhibition in St John's Hall where the Young Farmers pulled together all the photographs. But there was many, many scrapbooks that you kept as secretary of the Young Farmers. Now, I know that lots of people were in awe of all of that went on then. Do you feel it's changed now, as a secretarial position?
Very, very much so, yes. Back in my day, it was basically a typewriter or you wrote the letters by hand. These days, with the social media and the computers, it's very, very different.
And I think lots of people did enjoy that for the fact of the photographs of years gone by. Yeah. You mentioned earlier about Harvey Briggs and Kenny Strickett.
Yes, they used to do a fantastic write-up once a week in the newspapers, and everything was fantastic. They really did a good job. I think an awful lot of people miss the newspapers with the farming page on it.
And with the celebrations coming up, Andrea, there's going to be a great dinner celebration.
There will be. February, we intend to celebrate our 60th anniversary with a dinner at the Welbeck Hotel. Again, if anybody wants to, any past members wants to connect with us, please get in touch. We'd love to see you.
And I'm assuming this is just a group for ladies?
It is just for ladies, I'm afraid, yes. No gents.
Not that they'd cause any mischief, I'm sure. But like you said, Andrea, it's so important to get people together. But this event, asking for some of the ex-members to come back, I'm sure it'll be great celebrations.
Yes, again, if they've got any memorabilia, get in touch with us. We'd love to put it on display at the dinner.
And I know we've spoke about Mary Kringle starting the club, obviously nearly 60 years ago, Andrea. How did it come about?
I think the first meeting, according to the minutes, the first meeting was held in the Victoria Street Sunday School rooms. No idea myself where they are. It was before my time. Where there was a committee formed. Mrs. Kringle, she took the roles of secretary and treasurer, and Miss Margaret Clegg took the chair for the first event. Now, Miss Margaret Clegg, she went on to be Mrs. Cameen from Kennaugh, Laurie Cameen's wife.
Right,
and they set up a committee. They set up a committee, and then started every second Tuesday of the months October to about April time.
And I suppose the winters would be long, and you know, it's get out and about and enjoy events. What do you do nowadays? Like, what events will you have throughout the winter months?
Only last week we had a quiz by Dew Kermode. We've had a wine tastings with Matty. He came with his Lecker Valley wines.
Oh, lovely.
We've had various demonstrations. We've had Roden Haynes, who did behind the camera. He was very, very interesting.
And Roden, we would know about the Lochtons more so than...
Well, yes, you would see him as more of a farmer these days, but ultimately he had his history as a cameraman, and very, very entertaining.
That is great, isn't it? And it's always lovely to get an insight into business, like having the opportunity to experience the South African wines that Matty brings into the Isle of Man. You know, he's a vet by day, an exceptional vet at that. But it's really, really good.
Yes, it is. Previously, we visited Aragon Moor by kind permission of Dr. John Taylor, and he spoke on his clocks. We've had a walk to Honey Hill with Ray Kelly. Alexandra James, again, he showed us and let us have a taste of his London to Lima gins. Various different exhibitions. We've attended Knockalo internment camp, Davidson's ice cream factory.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's very varied. We try to mix it up and generally have a visit at least once a year.
And do you do any fundraising or anything like that as well? Because obviously that is really great. It's inspiring to get out and attend these things.
Yes, we pay subscriptions, £10 at the moment per lady. And we raise funds through raffles that we hold. And all of our funds, basically, the bank account is wiped clean at the end of the year, and all the funds goes to charity. This last year, we were able to give £700 to the Manx Children's Art Therapy. Prior to that, we've gave £400 to Breast Cancer Now. There was £180 to the Syrian refugees when they had their appeal. And also, prior to that, we'd gave £300 to Huntington's Disease Association.
See, they're great contributions, aren't they? And they're all such important causes. Throughout the farming community, we see so many lives being touched by one ailment or another. So, again, doing such great work in the Manx countryside.
Yeah. And it is just a few, generally, about 40-odd people in a room for 6 months of the year. And it's incredible how much money that you can raise.
Yeah, this is it. So finally, Andrea, the celebrations is in February. How do they get in touch with you?
If they could get in touch with me, I'm Secretary Andrea Faragher. My email address is afaragher@manx.net, or my telephone number is 672363 after 6 p.m.
There we go. That was Secretary of the Isle of Man Ladies Farmers Group, Andrea Faragher.
Yeah, it is great that they keep together, don't they? And, do a lot of work behind the scenes and trying to encourage people to stay involved in it.
Absolutely. When it was set up 60 years ago by Mary Kringle there, it had a real purpose to get out in the winter months, catch up, see what the lady farmers are doing around and about and on their farms. A great community spirit and feel. But the 60th anniversary is coming up in February, so if you do want your tickets, do get in touch with Andrea. It'd be great to reminisce and look back on how far it's come and how important it is to still get off the farm and meet up. Oh, just a quick mention, the Central Marts are having their annual poultry sale. Dressed turkeys, geese and ducks, Monday the 23rd of December. Come along and meet Father Christmas. The stalls will be open from 12 noon. There'll be catering on site and with Christmas carols from the Crosby Silver Band at 1 o'clock. So that's the annual sale of the poultry there at Knockalow for Central Marts.
Well, that's it for this series of Countryside. A big thank you to our producers, mainly Howard Kane, who does a fantastic, sterling job of editing some of our longer interviews. All of the podcast episodes of Countryside from this series are available at manxradio.com. Just pop there and you can listen to some of the interviews in a longer format as well. And all that's left to say is wish you and your family, Kirree, a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
And you too.
We'll be back in the new year with the next series of Countryside. So until then, from me, Simon Clark.
I'm me, Kirree Kermode.
We'll see you then. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.